How much do you trust our government? A 2023 study from Gallup stated that only 1 in 6 members of Gen Z reported having significant trust in Congress, the news, and our presidency. It used to be that these were the ultimate authority on public opinion, but that is no longer the case. Do you know where this institutional distrust started? Let me take you back to 1969. You are a middle-class American citizen who, like many others, once supported the Vietnam War, but have now grown weary of it. The war has dragged on for nearly 15 years now, and the frequent TV briefings detailing immense American success across the sea have become typical of your evening news. But now, as you read your copy of the New York Times, you sit up straight. You reread the sentence you just read and squint at the pictures in the paper. Surely you are not reading correctly. But your eyes do not deceive you. The pictures in the paper show American soldiers burning local Vietnamese people's homes to the ground. Pictures of children gunned down in the road, and even the cattle from the village were slaughtered. You find out later that you were reading the first report of the atrocities committed by the American Charlie Company, a division of the U.S. Army. Their commander was later convicted of war crimes, but this event, which ended in the death of 500 innocent Vietnamese villagers, added an enormous amount of fuel to the already raging anti-war movement against the war in Vietnam. The conflict in Vietnam began as just that, a governmental conflict in the 1940s between two countries, North and South Vietnam. Communist North Vietnam wanted to overtake the Free Republic of South Vietnam. And in the era of the Iron Curtain and the fear of the Soviet Union, the US felt the need to intervene. The overarching goal was to prevent the spread of communism, and in the name of capitalism and freedom, liberate a defenseless country in the process. America joined the conflict in Vietnam with the thought that they could fly in, supply some funds, arms, and training, and walk back out, having put up a significant roadblock to communism in Asia. Though the government reported that they were only training South Vietnamese troops, it is now understood that we had active American troops fighting on the ground months before we officially joined the war. The My Lai massacre, the incident previously described to you, was covered up for over a year and was only revealed through the persistent work of a freelance journalist and a war photographer. While these crimes were not a common theme in the war, it greatly shook the public's view of what was really happening in Vietnam. And as the war dragged on, more reports of dishonesty began to surface. The public was led by our government to believe that we were doing very well overall. For months, reports were read on live television of how many enemy soldiers we had killed that week, but it was later discovered that these reports were almost entirely falsified. Among these issues of dishonesty abroad, there were also major issues at home. The war in Vietnam happened in the middle of both the civil rights movement and the sexual revolution in America, both of which changed American culture greatly. Many African American citizens who had just been granted voting rights in 1965 felt the cruel irony of being drafted to fight for the freedom of a country across the ocean when they couldn't use certain public restrooms in their own free country of America. J.F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., and Robert F. Kennedy, who were against the war to varying degrees, were all assassinated during the Vietnam War. A common attitude among the American people became, why are we spending millions of dollars and sacrificing thousands of lives to fight for a country that we don't know when you are fighting and dying at home? In the end, America did not win the war in Vietnam. Due to enormous casualties, over 60,000 of our soldiers died. And increasingly tumultuous circumstances at home, America withdrew from Vietnam in 1973. And the war officially ended in 1975 when North Vietnam absorbed South Vietnam, and they became the unified communist state of Vietnam we know now. Many sociologists believe that the Vietnam War is at the heart of the widespread distrust for both the government and the legacy media we are familiar with today. This is a tragic story that still affects people to this day, but there is a strong biblical principle I want to apply to it. Though we know that human authority often fails us, as Christians we know that God never does. Numbers 23:19 says that God is not a man, so he does not lie. He is not human, so he does not change his mind. Has he ever promised and not carried it through? God is not like our imperfect human governments, which often cannot deliver what they promise. And although we cannot place full trust in any institutions, we can rest in the knowledge that God appoints governments and he has a plan to work through them to accomplish his perfect purposes. Thank you.